The seminar. Zirith Prime wasn't on any human star chart. Orbiting a dead red dwarf on the edge of Coalition-controlled space, it was a fortress of metal, glass, and secrecy. From the outside, it looked like an abandoned mining hub. On the inside, it buzzed with purpose. This was where the galaxy's most powerful minds came to speak freely, unburdened by treaties, morality, or fear of being overheard. Today's seminar was invitation only. Species who held sway over trade routes, biotech patents, and planetary extermination licenses filled the obsidian-colored auditorium. There were 6 armed Greth tacticians with translator pods fused to their necks. An ethery priest in ceremonial bone armor sat humming softly in the front row. And, towering at the podium with a serpentine grace, was High Strategist Voryx of the Drakari Dominion. "Let us begin," he hissed, tapping a long claw against a shimmering control node. The lights dimmed. A hologram flickered to life above the stage, a rotating image of Earth. Blue, green, fragile. Species 772, Voryx began, known to themselves as humans. Bipedal. Oxygen breathers. Primitive tool users. Dangerous. Several delegates chuckled at the contradiction. "Let us be clear," Voryx continued, voice silken with contempt. "This species should not, by all measures, be a threat. They are young, undisciplined, emotion-driven." And yet, the hologram shifted, showing battle footage. A human soldier using a stolen plasma rifle to destroy a Kellan warbot. A child redirecting a bioscan satellite using a repurposed game console. A mining crew on Ceres fighting off a hive mind parasite without backup or training. "Again and again," Voryx said coldly, "humans refuse to die properly." The audience murmured. Some took notes. Others nodded grimly. "They do not submit. They adapt. And they break rules we didn't know could be broken." One Terran, captured and caged on research station T-Kral-9, escaped by building a weapon out of cafeteria utensils and ventilation tubing. Another slide. An explosion. Charred metal. Missing scientists. In short, they are chaos incarnate. The camera panned across the rows. Most delegates looked disturbed. Focused. And then there was row 3. Aisle seat. Hood pulled low. Quiet. He hadn't moved since the seminar began. He didn't belong to any known species in the Coalition. No visible translator tech. No exposed breathing apparatus. Just a man, sitting still, hands folded in his lap. If anyone had looked closely, they might have noticed the odd symmetry of his posture, the subtle flex of fingers ready to strike. But no one looked closely. The delegates were too confident, too sure of their technology. Their scanners had been run. Their guests vetted. They didn't realize that humans had learned how to fool their systems months ago. The man in the hood blinked slowly. His name was John Rains, though that meant nothing here. To the Terran Intelligence Division, he was known as Asset Kilo 7. To the aliens who knew what he'd done on Varney's station, he was a ghost. His neural implant recorded everything: voices, holograms, data packets in the air. Every threat. Every name. Behind his retina, a live AI tracked keywords: eradication, nanite dispersal, planetary sterilization. Rains didn't react. Not even when Voryx raised his voice. "We cannot delay. Earth must be neutralized. Their population is unstable. Their spread is viral. If they reach the outer sectors..." He was cut off by a sudden cough from the back. A squid-like diplomat slithered forward, clicking nervously. "Forgive the interruption, strategist, but are we certain there are no humans among us?" Laughter rippled across the room. Genuine this time. "A human? Here." Voryx grinned, showing too many teeth. "Impossible. Our scanners are absolute." John Rains smiled beneath the hood. Voryx waved a claw. "Resume the analysis." Rains turned his head slightly. Behind the lens of his right eye, a small green icon blinked. Recording, 87% complete. Profile database acquired. AI sync pending. He tapped a button beneath his sleeve. Message queued. Earth HiCom. Coalition confirms genocidal intent. Prepare extraction. As the seminar droned on, Listing the weaknesses of the human respiratory system, John leaned back and crossed one leg over the other. They were right about one thing. Humans didn't die properly. The man in aisle 3. Zirith Prime's lights never dimmed completely. Even at night cycle, the corridors glowed with a sterile violet hue, engineered to suppress the circadian rhythms of its more aggressive guests. John Rains didn't sleep anyway. He stood alone in a maintenance alcove near the oxygen recirculators, his hood pulled back now. The soft hum of the station vibrated through his boots. He checked the signal again. Still dead. They were jamming external comms, standard protocol for a high-security summit. No messages in or out without authorization. But Rains wasn't counting on permission. He was counting on being underestimated. He knelt beside a sealed panel, popped it open with a tool disguised as a belt buckle, and connected a filament-thin wire from his wrist bracer to the station's mainframe. The interface came alive inside his left retina, a flood of glyphs, alien data structures, encryption layers. He blinked twice. The AI inside his neural implant, call sign, Greybox, began slicing through protocols. Greybox, accessing node, ZP_main_37. Mapping personnel. Identifying targets. Estimated completion, 3 minutes. Rains exhaled. 3 minutes. Long enough to remember how this mess started. 1 year earlier. The mission was called Scorchlight. Classified. Unacknowledged. Deep black. He and a 5-person recon team had been sent beyond Pluto's orbit to investigate a derelict alien vessel drifting near the Kuiper Belt. First contact protocol. Non-aggressive observation. Only the vessel wasn't dead. The moment they breached the hull, a neurostatic pulse fried their systems. 3 men died instantly. One screamed for 12 minutes before his heart exploded. Rains survived because he didn't trust automation. He'd shut down his onboard AI 5 minutes before boarding. Paranoia had saved his life. But surviving wasn't the hard part. Escaping was. The ship was a research ark, Kellen design, full of organic databanks and predatory drones. Rains learned its systems, turned its weapons against itself, burned it down from the inside. He escaped in a stolen pod, wounded and drifting for days until a smuggler ship picked him up. The Coalition assumed he died out there. They were wrong. And Earth took the opportunity. Back on Zirith Prime, the upload finished. Greybox, target list acquired. 43 high-value Coalition members present. 9 with confirmed genocidal orders against Earth. Mission escalation approved. Rains disconnected the cable and resealed the panel. In 3 hours, the seminar would resume with closed-door strategy meetings. He'd be there. But before that, he had a loose thread to cut. The cantina was dim and rank with the smell of recycled atmosphere and old blood. Rains moved through it like a shadow, his cloak shifting tones to match the wall behind him. He spotted the Sci-fi trader, Varlis, sipping something viscous through a biotube, his bioluminescent eyes scanning the crowd. They'd done business once. Rains had traded him a data shard full of stolen Dominion encryption in exchange for black market weapon mods. He'd trusted Varlis not to talk. Apparently, that trust had been misplaced. Rains approached slowly, uncloaking just long enough for recognition to register. Varlis froze. His glow dimmed. "You shouldn't be here," Varlis whispered in a bubbling, aquatic voice. "Neither should you," Rains replied, slipping into the booth across from him. "But here we are. I didn't say anything. You looked like you were about to." Rains placed a small, smooth disc on the table. To anyone else, it looked like a coaster. To Varlis, it hummed with warning. "Paralytic," Rains said. "Skin contact. 40 seconds of screaming before your lungs stop working." Varlis went still. "What do you want?" "I want your silence." "Same deal as before. Information for survival. You don't breathe a word about me. In exchange, you get to keep breathing." Varlis nodded slowly. "What are you doing here?" Rains stood, finishing what Scorchlight started. As he walked away, he heard Varlis curse in his native tongue. Something about humans and death gods. Back in his quarters, really a maintenance locker he'd converted, Rains checked the data again. The seminar wasn't just talk. A full-scale extermination protocol was already drafted and time-stamped. They'd planned to launch a probe swarm toward Earth's orbit by the end of the cycle. He sat down, fingers laced, and stared at the crude projection of Earth he'd scratched into the metal wall. Blue ink, shaky lines. "I don't care what they think," he muttered. "We're not prey." He activated his neural comm again. Still jammed. That was fine. They'd hear him soon enough. The reckoning. The seminar's second day was invitation only. No spectators. No press. No transcripts. The doors sealed behind the 43 coalition delegates like the lid of a tomb. Inside the obsidian-lit conference chamber, High Strategist Voryx stood at the center of a circular platform. His claws tapped rhythmically against a control sphere as a schematic of Earth's solar system floated above. "Our timetable has advanced," Voryx announced. "Intelligence reports indicate humanity's technological curve is entering exponential phase. If we delay another cycle, we risk allowing them to spread beyond their own system." He paused dramatically, then activated a side display. A new holo, Earth's moon, now showing strange metallic constructs, Terran-built defense platforms. Unconfirmed origin. Unknown energy source. If this is the start of off-world militarization, we act now or never. Murmurs rippled through the room. "We deploy the nanospores," Voryx continued. "A targeted release from orbit. The humans will never know what killed them." No one saw the man in aisle 3 tap twice on the inner seam of his jacket. In a locked utility shaft 3 levels below, a small black drone the size of a mouse sprang to life. It skittered along the wall, climbed into a maintenance duct, and connected to the central AI node. Inside John Rain's neural HUD, code streamed in. Graybox. Payload upload complete. Trojan active. Subnet infected. AI grid now under partial control. He blinked. Data ghosted across his vision. Internal power relays, access doors, environmental controls. One touch, and the lights would go out. Rains remained still. Let them talk. On stage, the Ethery ambassador raised a question. What if the humans detect the swarm before impact? They've shown unpredictable pattern learning. "They won't," Voryx snapped. "They are reactionary. Short-sighted. You overestimate them because they look like you." Another voice. "We underestimated them on Varnies. And Krull. And Delta Apex." "That ends today," Voryx growled. Then the lights flickered. Just for a second. The room fell into sharp silence. A few delegates shifted nervously. Voryx waved a claw. "Minor fluctuation. Ignore it." John stood. They didn't notice him at first. A man rising from aisle 3 didn't register as a threat among warlords and generals. Then he spoke. "You talk too much." Heads turned. Eyes widened. Voryx stared at him, confused. "Who are you?" John took a step forward. "Nobody important. Just a representative of the species you keep trying to kill." There was a moment of stunned disbelief. Then panic. "Security!" Voryx bellowed. Too late. John raised his left hand. A dull ping echoed through the chamber as every exit door slammed shut. Emergency protocols failed. Lights cut to crimson. Graybox. Lockdown engaged. Life support controlled. Weapon systems offline. John's right arm flicked. A blade unfolded from beneath his sleeve, a monomolecular edge glowing faintly blue. "You made 3 mistakes," he said calmly. 1. You gathered in one place. 2. You talked too loud. And 3. He stepped into the aisle. "You assumed no human could get here." A Kellan enforcer lunged at him. John spun low, sliced through its knee joint, and shoved it into a wall hard enough to dent steel. 2 more came at him. One carried a shock staff. John sidestepped the swing, jammed his blade into the staff's core, and let the overload detonate in the wielder's hands. Screams. Chaos. He wasn't just fighting. He was dismantling them. With surgical strikes, he took down a dozen delegates, forcing the rest to cower behind overturned chairs and failing personal shields. Then the ceiling opened. Terran stealth dropships decloaked above the station. 5 of them. A voice crackled over the station intercom, calm, female, and unmistakably human. "This is Commander Lyra Voss of the Terran Strategic Response Force. Zirith Prime is now under Earth jurisdiction. Any resistance will be considered an act of war." The aliens froze. John deactivated the lockdown. Doors hissed open. Armed Terran soldiers poured in, sleek armor, plasma repeaters, and absolutely no patience. Voryx snarled. "You violated interstellar law." John walked up to him, face calm. "You held a seminar on killing us," he said, "and forgot the first rule of war." He grabbed Voryx by the collar, leaned in. "Never say your plans where your enemy can hear it." Then he punched him, once, hard, and let the strategist crumple. Later, in the command deck of the Terran lead ship, John watched Earth rise on a screen, still far, still fragile, still blue. Voss joined him. "You always did like theatrics. I like results." She smiled. "We've got their leaders, their plans, their AI. We've also got their attention," John said. "This won't be the last time." "No," Voss agreed. "But next time, they'll know we're listening." Debrief and departure. Zirith Prime had gone silent. No transmissions. No broadcasts. No distress signals. Just a dark blot on the outer edge of Coalition space, now occupied by Terran forces and locked in digital quarantine. Every door, console, and comm node answered only to Earth now. In the core command chamber, converted hastily from what had once been a Coalition war archive, John Raines stood before a holodisplay of Earth. His jacket was torn. Dried alien blood still marked his boots. He hadn't slept, but his posture hadn't wavered. Commander Lyra Voss entered behind him, reading a data slate. 34 confirmed Coalition delegates captured, she said. 7 dead in the crossfire, 2 critical. We've secured the entire station. John didn't turn. What about the swarm? Destroyed. Greybox traced the launch codes. They had the probe drones hidden in the outer ring, disguised as mining units. Your backdoor override wiped the deployment queue. He nodded. Quiet. Calculating. She stepped beside him, tone more careful now. That's the 3rd time you've gone in solo, Raines. You're not exactly replaceable. I'm not supposed to be. Voss sighed. Command wants a full debrief. They also want you grounded for psych eval. No. That wasn't a request. He turned now, his face calm but deadly serious. They planned to wipe us out, Lyra. Not dominate. Not subdue. Erase. And they were laughing while they said it. She folded her arms. I know. That's why I authorized this op in the first place. But you're not invincible, John. You keep going off-leash, one of these times. I won't come back. Yeah. A silence passed between them. Heavy. Familiar. Then a ping on the terminal behind them. Greybox. Encrypted transmission detected. Coalition subspace relay pinged Earth orbital zone. Origin, unknown. John and Lyra turned in unison. Trace it, she ordered. Greybox. Working. Decryption at 61%. Warning, payload contains obfuscated quantum data. A pause. Then. Partial translation. He was never the only one. John's jaw tightened. Someone else was in that room, he muttered. Or watching. Lyra moved to the terminal. Greybox, is this Coalition protocol? Negative. Signature not recognized. Data entropy suggests adaptive intelligence. Not machine. Not organic. Hybrid construct likely. Someone piggybacked on their network, John realized. Used the summit as bait. Lyra nodded slowly. Then the Coalition wasn't just plotting. They were being watched too. A deeper cold settled over the room. Someone let us take the blame for smashing the summit, John said. They benefit from the chaos. Lyra looked at him. A third party. Or a fourth. Maybe worse. Later, as Terran dropships loaded the prisoners into stasis pods for return to Earth, John stood in the hangar, arms folded. He watched Voryx being marched into containment, clawed hands shackled, pride broken, eyes still burning. The strategist met his gaze. "You think this is over, human," he rasped. "But you've only stirred the dark." "I'm counting on it," John replied. Voryx sneered. "You're not ready for what comes next." John stepped closer, so only the two of them could hear. "You're right," he said. "But we never are. That's why we win." The doors sealed. Earth's Defense Council convened 48 hours later. Every eye turned to the stream from Zirith Prime. Terran forces dismantling an alien command station. Alien leaders kneeling in magnetic cuffs. Classified war plans exposed to the world. And standing at the center of it all, John Raines. A man who'd walked into an enemy summit alone, and made it out alive. Councilwoman Rowe leaned forward in her seat. "What do we do now?" she asked. Commander Voss's voice came through the transmission. "We hold the line," she said. "Because now they know we're not prey. We're watching too." Far across the stars, deep in uncharted space, a single data pulse reached a dormant listening post buried inside a dead moon. The machines there stirred for the first time in 1,000 years. One word blinked in a dozen languages, Terran among them. Active. Back on Earth, John Raines stood on a balcony overlooking the Pacific. He still hadn't slept. The blue horizon reminded him of what they'd almost lost. Lyra stepped beside him with 2 mugs of coffee. "You ever going to stop?" she asked. He took 1 mug. Sipped. "Not while someone's making plans in a room and forgetting I might be in the 3rd row." They stood in silence, watching the sunrise. Earth wasn't safe. Not yet. But it was still standing. And that was enough for now. The end. Or perhaps, just the beginning.